Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Sunday night edition of Into the Show with Sean Kelly. Hey, Cindy Simpson, good to see you, hon. Welcome to the show Into the Night with me, Sean Kelly, on UPRN Talk Radio, 105.3 New Orleans, 107.7 Mississippi. And also want to thank Carnation for sponsoring my show tonight. Um, and it's going to be a pretty interesting show. Um, the other day I was thinking, I had Bump in the Night Paranormal Society on Tuesday, last Tuesday. And they do a lot of traveling, okay? And they go to different places to investigate. Neil Carr, thank you very much. Good evening to you too. I'm doing well, thank you. And they travel to different places to go and do some investigating. And when I was investigating, I took PPS to a lot of places, but I really didn't get to go to some of the ones that I really, really wanted to. But I know 5 years from now, whenever I retire, I will be able to do stuff like that. So I was thinking the other night, I'm like, well, what about the other haunted locations out there in the United States? Um, and for any paranormal investigator or investigating team that is listening to this show, I highly recommend that you get a pencil and a piece of paper and write down some of the stuff that I'm going to be telling you tonight. I want to thank, I got to give credit to travelandleisure.com because I picked up all the information off of them, off their website, and it is like the 20 most haunted attractions in the United States. So, what's it like to travel to a haunted place? It's a lot of fun, you know. And most places that you go to, there's a lot of history to it. But here's the thing that kind of like throws a monkey wrench into the whole situation here. Okay, here's what happens when you go to these places. Places have stories of who haunts the house, or you know, the battleships, wherever you want to go, and there's stories about it. And I guess it piqued the interest of a lot of people that do want to go to places like that. But to be honest with you, okay, I could probably go to your house and find a lot of paranormal activity. And how much paranormal activity do you actually have in your house? I believe that every house, every building, every location has a ghost. Okay, and so for me to go to some places that they charge an arm and a leg to go to, where you need to bring like 100 people with you in order to, substantiate or have enough money to go to these places. And it's not cool doing an investigation with with 100 people. They're not even 50, not even 20, because you really don't get the full effect of the investigation. But I guess this is the 21st century, and there are some places that need to make um, money, you know. Neil Carr says, I believe folklore can manifest into actual activity put on by whatever non human intelligence that's essentially having a laugh and pay to play places. I can't afford such luxuries. Neither can I, Neil. Neither can I. But, God bless the people who can, you know. So I was going down. Cindy Simpson says, I have a lot, but it's positive energy. And I'm glad you said that, Cindy, because, yes, we have done many investigations at the houses and at private residences to where they are friendly ghosts. I wouldn't go as far as Casper, But I would definitely say that there have been a lot of very, very positive investigations. What the killer for people who live in the house is that they just don't understand what's going on. And that's up to the paranormal investigator and investigating team to go in and do a little investigation, tell them what they find, see what they got, and then go from there. So you can give your clients a peace of mind. And that's the whole thing behind, Pittsburgh Paranormal Society. We wanted to give people, a peace of mind that, what you have in your house isn't as diabolic as you think it is. Okay. And I've said this over a million times, and I'll continue saying it over a million times. I blame the movies. I blame TV. I blame shows that really don't put, a lot of. They like to put the fear factor into things. Not everything, not everybody, not everywhere. There's a demon, and I will take that to my grave because there isn't, you know. But people out there, now you got to remember that we are broadcasting worldwide. And what I would like to do is people who are listening in different countries, if you can, please go to Facebook and like my page, Pittsburgh Paranormal Society Facebook page. And if you can, send me a message and tell me about the haunted places that you have where you live or whatever country you're in. Personally, me, I would love to go to Ireland and do in the castles. I would love to go to Romania and do the castles over in Romania. I don't, for me, I don't know the stories of what's happened in those castles or whatever. But if I did, and when I go, if I go, I would not want to know the history of it. I would just like to go in and figure it out myself. Now, a lot of people have asked me, they said, Sean, if you go to someplace in Germany or if you go someplace in China or Russia or, any places that are not English, James Griffin Humphreys, the Harmony Inn, yes, the Harmony Inn's very, very haunted. I do believe that's up in Newcastle, PA. Yes, the Harmony Inn. And, but it just, don't, I would not want to find the information at all on this, okay, on where I'm going. Like to go in cold, as we say. In the paranormal field, we want to go in cold. But what I was getting back to was that if you go to Germany, if you go to France, go to China, wherever you go in the country, okay, please bring an interpreter around with you because I'm sure that the spirits in those different countries really don't know how to speak English and probably do not understand what you're talking about. So I highly recommend that you get an interpreter. Now, you go to Ireland, you would get somebody that spoke Gaelic. So, because I'm sure the spirits in them castles are very old, and I'm sure that they would understand the Gaelic, voice or words. Neil Carr says, I follow many investigation teams in the UK, and one pair in particular actually had established communication with something claiming not only to me a monstrous energy, it claimed it was a skinwalker. That's possible. It's amusing to me that a spirit on a haunted forest in England is some sunwalker, or skinwalker, you mean, on vacation. Well, you know what, Neil? Honestly, skinwalkers are everywhere, and that's the truth. They're not just particularly here in America; they're everywhere. Skinwalkers are everywhere, and they're scary people. They're scary, you know. But you also got to remember too, whenever you're talking to a spirit, okay, um, it can be very manipulative. Okay, um, they could probably, they will, and they could imitate something that they're not, and that's what makes paranormal investigating tricky. You know, because you really seriously need who's with you in spirit, and are you wondering if they're telling you a lie or not? You know what I mean? So that's why they get some good experience behind you, and then go from there. But as again, I want to thank travelandleisure.com for letting me read some of these off. If I get in trouble, I'm sorry about that. But Travel and Leisure. It's the 20 most haunted places in America and the ghosts that call them home. Again, before I start rattling these off, okay, get a pen and a piece of paper, okay, and write some of these places that you would like to go to. Okay. It says here haunted locations can often seem like cliches, even to those uninvolved in the field. And who can blame them? A creepy old mansion, a derelict asylum, a tattered hospital. Most anyone in the general public could guess at their histories and come out at least half accurate. What intrigues me are the stories that nobody could possibly conceive. Now there you go, the stories that nobody could possibly conceive. The locations none of us saw coming. This Connor Gossel, paranormal investigator and historian, and this is done with an interview with Travel and Leisure. It's those unique narratives that make a haunted place really stand out, and that's the truth. It's all about the stories, you know, and the people who put them out there. So, uh, the first one is New Orleans. Okay, there's a dozen of reportedly haunted places in New Orleans. Churches haunted by the spirits of former priests, former hospitals visited by soldiers who died but never truly passed on, and homes filled with ghosts of previous residents, not to mention the vampire stories. The city also has its share of notable ghosts, including that of William Faulkner, whoever that is, which is sometimes spotted at the author's former home-turned-bookstore, Faulkner House Books. Sounds interesting. I'll have to go to that link after the show and check it out myself. But yeah, and it's true. Um, what I said earlier, the soldiers going to the hospitals, the priests that haunt the churches. I know Pittsburgh, Western Pennsylvania, has a ton of churches. God only knows how many priests are haunting that, but I tell you what, I used to work for a bakery and I would go in, and this is when I was in my, really into the paranormal, and I would deliver a cake once a month to St. Paul's Monastery over in the South Side. Small church, but they always had the door open at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm telling you what, you walk in there, and I got the heebie-jeebies. It was just like all those statues were looking upon me. So what I did was I lit a candle for them, out of respect. Another house is called the Old Absinthe House, open since the early 1800s. It's supposedly haunted by voodoo practitioner Marie Laveau, Andrew Jackson, and pirate Jean Lafitte, among others. And the St. Louis Cemetery, number 1, is another paranormal hotspot said to have hundreds of ghosts. And Neil Carr says, I love it when a somewhat response on demand contact is made, and it says it is someone who stayed behind to a variety of reasons. Apparently, we can wait for those we live to pass before moving on. So true now. I like quick responses, especially when it's a good EVP and whoever's talking on that EVP is no one part of your group, or if you're by yourself, that's like pretty cool. Another place is Pawleys, Pawleys, Pawleys Island in South Carolina. So I hope some paranormal people are writing these names down just in case you want to go on a little vacation. Um, write these down. And if somebody ever asks you, well, how did you find about Pawleys Island? You can always mention, well, my friend Sean, who has a podcast on UPRN Talk Radio, he decided to come and talk about it. South of Myrtle Beach, Pawleys Island draws sun seekers to its less busy stretch of sand. However, there's a darker side. The town has more than its fair share of ghost stories, the most famous being of the Gray Man, said to appear on the beach before devastating storms. The apparition sometimes approaches people and warns them to flee. It's believed that if you encounter this spectral beachcomber, you'll be spared from the wrath of the incoming hurricane. Now, you know what? Now, it could be a story, but, I have investigated a place and I've heard stories from other people stating that they were in certain places. And if a certain, ghost or whatever you want to call them, I call them ghosts or spirits, like ghosts, it's easier. Yeah, they'll warn you, and I've gone to a couple houses where it was so bad that, the ghosts tried everything in the world for me not to go there. And it's the truth. I had a brand new car one time, and brand new, spanking new, right off the lot. And so I'm going to an investigation that Saturday, and as God is my witness, my transmission fell out of my car because it did not want me to get there. But I ended up going anyway. Somebody picked me up from the group. So, okay. And there's also another place down there. It's called the Pelican Inn. It is said to be haunted by its former owner, who also a former Confederate soldier at All Saints Church, where some graves date from the 18th century. You can pay your respects to Alice Flagg, a young, broken-hearted girl whose ghost is known to wander about the town and in the marshes. Visitors often leave a token on her grave to make a wish. In Chicago, okay, a disastrous fire, a notorious serial killer, and a mob history all contribute to Chicago's reputation as a haunted destination. The Iroquois Theater was the site of a fire that killed hundreds in 1903. And some say the alley behind the theater is still haunted by some unfortunate patrons. H. H. Holmes, the country's first serial killer, murdered dozens, if not hundreds, of women in this infamous murder castle. The building is long gone now, and the site is now occupied by a post office where some workers still report odd experiences in the building's basement. Craziness, huh? Crazy. But so there was a lot of places here in Pittsburgh that we've gone to that, they really had some bad stuff happen in the place. And you know what? According to the story, there was murders or, rapes or whatever, all kinds of bad things that happened in this house or this building. And you know what? Honestly, they were creepy as hell. They really were. I don't get scared that easy, but I tell you what, I went into one place and I got petrified. And you know what? I'm not ashamed to say that I actually got scared on an investigation. Yes. And I've been on one where I couldn't even go into the house. It was so terrible. And if you want to know, the negative energy would be too much for me. I understand, Cindy. Of course, it would be. But you know what, Cindy? If you can go in with an open mind and not hear the story of the place and just go in cold, maybe it's really not that negative energy that you feel. It could possibly be something better. It's all what people tell us whenever they tell the stories of places. Neil Carr, sidewalls. There was a fire that gutted it. The legend was there was a white witch, and the place was highly active, and it would try to scare you out. Loved it. Cool, Neil. Cool. But you know what, buddy? You know, I'm friends with a lot of witches. Okay, and they know where I stand on that. There's no such thing as a white witch or a black witch. Okay, there isn't in my book. Um, a witch is a witch is a witch is a witch. And what they do, it all depends on that certain person. Yeah, Cindy, yes, a protection shield, maybe. Yeah, you could do that. But Neil, back to you. You know, it all depends on the certain person who dwells um, in witchcraft. Right, I notice, haha, but the energy still seems to play the game. Of course, definitely now. The energy's crazy. Um, been to many places where it wasn't so pleasant energy. But back to the list here, the Pine Barrens in New Jersey. I did a show with Jenny Nicasio. Her show is on Tuesday nights right before mine from 7:10 to 8:10. And when we were together on Chasing Prophecy, um, we did it. We got an author who wrote a book about the Pine Barrens, and it was a very, very good show. In South Jersey, the Pine Barrens is a natural reserve notorious as the home of the Jersey Devil. The legendary creature is said to be a demon with bat wings and hooves. Born to a local woman in the 18th century, over the past few hundred years, stories have periodically surfaced about its attacks on livestock and people. In addition to being stalked by this shadowy monster, the area is considered one of the most haunted places in America because of its abandoned factories and towns. It was also the location of a 1928 plane crash that killed a Mexican pilot on his way from New York City to Mexico City. This ghost is said to wander the crash site. Interesting. And that's in New Jersey, the Pine Barrens. And this stuff, if you're writing it down and if you really want to go to it, Google it and it will give you more information. And the more you read, the more, it would be like, hey, you know what, I'm going to take a weekend and go up to New Jersey and go to the Pine Barrens. But it's always safe. Don't go by yourself. Okay. What you need to do too also is actually find somebody, another paranormal group, a paranormal person or a historian that can give you more information on the Pine Barrens. And maybe they could, find the right people that can go along with you. But I hear it's again another creepy place to go to. Savannah, Georgia. Savannah, Georgia is also ranked among the most haunted cities in the U.S. Historic homes, inns, and restaurants are rumored to house the spirits of former residences and visitors. In fact, those looking for a thoroughly spooky weekend in Savannah can opt to stay at the allegedly haunted hotel and eat at restaurants still frequented by the spirits that never fully left Earth. Moon River Brewing Company is known as the most haunted place in town. Featured on Ghost Adventures, ghost hunters have reportedly seen a lady in white on the stairs, and spirits have been known to mess with the staff. That is the Moon River Brewing Company in Savannah. That's another thing on my bucket list is to go to Savannah, Georgia. There's a lot of places in Mississippi too, and down south for the war, the Civil War. Okay, we got another one here, the Pirate's Home. Now, family-friendly restaurant was the boarding house popular among sailors. Some are reportedly kidnapped from its basement, and their spirits are thought to visit the restaurant today. And finally, the Marshall House is known as one of the most haunted hotels in the U.S. That's the Marshall House. Thanks to its history as a hospital during the Civil War and yellow fever epidemics, guests have reportedly seen apparitions in the hallways and hearing ghost children running down the halls at night, among other mysterious happenings. Interesting. Whoa, gotta go back to it. Hold on. Okay. Neil says, yeah, I'd love to visit some old Civil War locations with documented activity. Go to Gettysburg. But no, you're right. Savannah would be great to go. Hey, Carla, good to see you, hon. Good evening to you, too. A haunted destination that often flies under the radar in Savannah is the Grave Face Museum. The building houses artifacts of the occult, the personal belongings of serial killers, and one-of-a-kind journey through all things spiritual and morbid. It's the only location this guy encountered in his 11 years of investigating. The energies almost caused me to become sick and lose consciousness. And that's what Cindy Simpson has been saying all night about the energies. The owner is incredibly kind and nonchalant about the paranormal activity inside, including the apparition of a man with no legs who is often seen floating down the stairs. That would be freaking awesome, wouldn't it? That's one thing I never saw was a floating spirit. That would be pretty cool to do. But that is called, where are we at? The Grave Face Museum. There you go. Okay, so we're coming up on the 30-minute mark. That means we're going to take a 70-second break. You have to go to the bathroom, have a cigarette, do what you got to do. And I will see you in 70 seconds. Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the second half of the show Into the Night with me, Sean Kelly, on UPRN Talk Radio. 105.3 New Orleans, 107.7 Mississippi. And again, I want to thank Carnation. Whoop, I lost something. There we go. They're back. Joe Fox was cutting grass, buddy. That's cool. I'm glad you made it, though, brother. I'm glad you made it. But we want to thank Carnation Carnation for sponsoring this my show tonight. A little tongue tied there. But in the first half of the show, I was talking about some places in the United States where you can go visit, and I was just talking about some of the places that they can go to. If you missed the first half of this show, you can always go on to SoundCloud or go on to the Pittsburgh Paranormal Facebook page and go from there. So back to the second half, and I'm just going to read a couple more because we got about 20 minutes left of the show, 22 minutes left, and I'm going to get as many as I can get in. The next state is St. Augustine, Florida. It was founded in 1565. St. Augustine is a hotbed of ghost activity. The St. Augustine Lighthouse and Maritime Museum is supposedly haunted by girls who drowned there in the 1870s. Visitors have also reported paranormal experiences at the Castle Warden, a Moorish-style home built in the 1880s that now houses the first permanent Ripley's Believe It or Not museum. Ain't that cool? I did not know that. And it was established in 1950. The city has several other haunted locations. You can explore the darker side of St. Augustine on a ghost tour. Some even bring along EMF meters to track paranormal activity. And I'm glad the ghost tours were brought up. Okay? Because, I've been on like 2 or 3 of them up in Gettysburg. And they're great. They really, really are. I never experienced a ghost on any of those ghost tours. But what those ghost tours are cool about is that, say, like you do go to Gettysburg, there's like 3 or 4 different ghost walks. And you learn a little bit more about the city of Gettysburg. You also learned about, because they do talk a lot about the Civil War. Okay. But real quick, what I like to share about Gettysburg is that, a lot of people, they go to the battlefield to do some paranormal investigating. What I'd like to do is about 12 midnight, 1 in the morning, I'd like to go and take a walk through the town of Gettysburg. Just walking down the main streets. And I'm telling you, the town is really, really haunted because you have to remember July 1st, that's where the majority of the battle took place, was in the town of Gettysburg, and there is a lot of spirits that hang out in that town. If you guys can, honestly, make a trip up there to Gettysburg and do a ghost walk and do your own investigations up there. And it's okay to read the stories, that's all right. But again, like I told you at the beginning of the show, the stories is a story is a story. I mean, if you wrote, I'm just going to use Cindy as an example. If Cindy wrote a story about her house, then everybody in the paranormal field would want to come to her house and investigate it. So, but you seriously need to go to Gettysburg if you can. Make a trip up there. You can't do it in one day. You need at least 2 or 3 days up there. And go in April or May and in like late September, early October, because there's not too many people up there. But during the summertime, there's a lot of people that visit Gettysburg. Now we are going into the state of Idaho. Believe it or not, Idaho. It's called the Shoshone Ice Caves. And in the backcountry of Idaho, 16 miles north of Shoshone, the state's longest lava tube is a 4.5-mile long cave. When the site was discovered in the 1880s, the caves were full of natural ice. And thanks to the restoration effort and replenish it, The overexploitation, you could see the icy phenomenon during a guided tour. In addition to the attraction's interesting history and geology, there have reports of paranormal activity. Visitors have heard footsteps and voices in the darkness, and some say it's the ghost of a bear or even a Shoshone princess who was buried in the caves centuries ago. Interesting. But I don't know if I'd go that because I'm very claustrophobic, is what I am. Me and caves don't get along. Now we got Portland, Oregon. Portland, Oregon might be the best known for its available craft beer scene and artsy vibes, but the city is one of the best destinations for ghost hunters. The Shanghai tunnels are perhaps the most notorious haunted site in the city. In the late 1800s, the city was a major international port, and underground tunnels were created to transport often illegal goods across Portland. According to local lore, residents hanging out in the bars were kidnapped and taken through the tunnels to waiting ships, never seemed to be seen again. Some say the victims' souls still haunt the bars above the ground. And I heard about that, Miss River Rose. Hey, it's okay, hon. Good evening to you. Lee, I'm glad you got to stop in. That's pretty cool. Thank you. The Stanley Hotel, Estes Park, Colorado. Instantly recognizable by the devoted horror film of the Stanley Hotel, was the inspiration of Stephen King's novel The Shining. Let's see. I don't know. It just, again, Stephen King wrote a book about it, and I don't know. But that's another one. And I just talked about Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Now we're going in, oh, yay, Portland here. Been here 37 years, never did the Shanghai tour. Well, you know what, Neil? Do me a favor. Go take that tour if you want to, and tell me that you took it, and then I'll get you on my show and we can discuss that if you're up for it. I'd appreciate it. Now we're on to Los Angeles, the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel. With a storied past combining Hollywood legends and broken dreams, it's hardly surprising LA has its share of paranormal activity. Thank you, brother. Activity, especially at the iconic homes and hotels. One of the most notorious sites is the Hollywood Roosevelt, where Marilyn Monroe was a long-term resident. According to guests staying in her favorite room, Suite 1200, the tragic star sometimes appears in the mirror as a ghostly figure. But she's not the only A-list phantom. Guests have sensed the presence of Carole Lombard, Errol Flynn, and Montgomery Clift. There are also non-celebrity ghosts like Caroline, a small child who plays and roams the halls of the hotel, looking for her mother, and a man in a tuxedo who hangs around the ballroom. Now that sounds interesting. Maybe if I stop up in Portland there, Neil, we'll take a ride down and we'll go to Los Angeles and go to this place. That would be pretty cool. But again, like I said at the beginning, these are stories. That's all they are. And for us to really find out if they truly are legit hauntings, we need to go there and do our own investigating. Washington, D.C. The U.S. Capitol has seen its fair share of history, so it makes sense that the Washington, D.C. is for several ghost stories. In fact, many say the White House is one of the most haunted houses in the U.S. President Lincoln's ghost has been spotted in the Lincoln bedroom. President William Henry Harrison, who died in the official residence, is said to return to the afterlife, and First Ladies Dolly Madison and Abigail Adams supposedly still linger, tending to the homes. DC Ghost Tours takes visitors through other allegedly haunted locations, including the National Building Museum, the Congressional Cemetery, and the official government buildings. That's pretty cool. I'm going to do that. The next one in Corpus Christi, Texas, you got the USS Lexington. The aircraft carrier saw action in the Pacific during World War II, but now sits in Corpus Christi Bay since it opened as a museum in the 1990s. Staff and visitors have reported strange noises and sightings of uniform-clad ghosts, which is hardly surprising given the vessel's many battles and lost lives. Every October, the ship hosts a haunted house event that includes actors and a ghost tour where you can hear more about these onboard paranormal encounters. And I want to go to that one. There are so many interesting ones that I would like to go on. If I make it, I make it. If I don't, I don't. But these are just places in the United States where they're actually truly haunted. San Francisco. Prominent landmarks with dark histories make San Francisco one of the most haunted cities in the U.S. China Camp Park, State Park, the USS Hornet, and the Mare Island Naval Shipyard are all said to be haunted. But the number one phantom hotspot has to be Alcatraz. It's widely believed there are a few ghosts lurking in the infamous island prison. The spirit of Al Capone is perhaps the most notorious, and some say you can still hear him playing with his favorite banjo tunes. That would be pretty interesting to go to. Joe Fox says President Lincoln is rolling in his grave for sure. Of course he's rolling in his grave. So is George Washington. But this is a laid back, show tonight, brother. But no, they're definitely rolling. And like I told everybody, and what I want to do is go actually to where George Washington's buried, set up an EVP, digital voice recorder, and start asking questions. And we'll see what he comes up with. This one's in Asheville, North Carolina. It's called the Biltmore Estate. One of the main attractions in Asheville, North Carolina, the enormous Biltmore Estate is still owned by the famously wealthy Vanderbilt family, who owe their fortune to the 19th century shipping and railroad empire. The mansion, which was completed in 1895, holds the title of the largest privately owned house in the country, as nearly as 179,000 square feet. Many believe some of the family's ancestors still haunt the halls and rooms, such as the ghost of Edith Vanderbilt, who can sometimes be heard calling out for her husband George, whose ghost is also said to hang around his study. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Joe will behave. Good. I appreciate it, my friend. Salem, Massachusetts. Best known for the witch trials that resulted in the execution of 19 people. Salem, Massachusetts has a long-standing reputation as one of the most haunted cities in the U.S. Some say the ghosts of those killed during the trials linger to this day. Lysom Hall, now Turner's Seafood, is allegedly haunted by the first victim of the trials, Bridget Bishop. And Howard Street Cemetery is haunted by Giles Corey, who was tortured to death after being accused of witchcraft. Learn more about the Salem spooky side. You got to. River says, okay. River says, I would love to go to Alcatraz to hear that banjo by Al Capone. My great-grandfather worked for Al Capone running bootlegged alcohol. Seriously? That's awesome, River. Huh. That would be pretty cool. Hopefully one day you'll get out there, and hopefully I'm still around, and maybe we could talk about it on the show. But that's pretty interesting that your grandpa did that, your grandfather. That's pretty cool. Next one is in Maryland. It's the Antietam National Battlefield. Now, what's really crazy about Antietam, okay, it's not even maybe 20 miles from Gettysburg. It's pretty close together. As a site of over 3,500 deaths from both sides, you can count on some lingering souls on this Civil War battlefield. The most haunted location in Antietam is the Sunken Road, also known as Bloody Lane. It was here that the soldiers faced off at close range and advanced weapons and the bodies piled up. Visitors along this trail have reported eerie occurrences like the smell of gunpowder or the sight of men in uniform who vanished into thin air. There have also been reports of strange experiences at the Burnsides Bridge where many of the bodies were buried. And you know what, everybody, if you really want to learn more about the Antietam battlefield, please, Google it up and just read, about that battle because um, another really haunted place down there is called the Dunkirk Church. But yes, I've been to Antietam twice already, and yes, the Sunken Road is terrible. But you have to read the history behind the Sunken Road in order for you to understand why there's so many spirits there. It wasn't pleasant. Let's see what time we got. We have about 6 minutes, if that, but I'll do a couple more here. San Antonio, Texas. In San Antonio, the Battle of the Alamo led to thousands of casualties. And Alamo visitors and employees have reported seeing the ghosts of soldiers and hearing mysterious rally cries. The nearby Emily Morgan Hotel is one of the country's most haunted hotels, too. The property was once a hospital, and some guests report seeing the apparition of a woman in white in the halls. What else we got here? I think I'm down to the last one here. And that would be good timing, don't you think, guys? And the last one is in Hawaii. Okay. I'm going to really destroy this name. It's the Daniel K. and Oue International Airport, Honolulu, Hawaii. You might want to Google that airport in Hawaii because I cannot pronounce that. If you're just landing in Honolulu, ghosts are probably the last thing on your mind, despite the buzz of excitement from incoming tourists. The airport is said to be haunted by a ghost dubbed the Lady in Waiting. According to the legend, she was jilted by her fiancé, who took off on an international flight, and shortly after she took her own life. Now she is spotted all over the airport, milling around the gates, hoping for his return. Other ghostly reports at the airport includes toilets that flush on their own, and the choking ghost, who tends to sit on the chest of sleeping passengers, leaving them waking up grasping for air. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. And if you want to learn more, if you want to read a little bit more, again, I want to thank travelandleisure.com. That's where I got this information at tonight. Neil Carr says, 2 places I lived from my native Bay Area was Petaluma, California. We lived in a proper haunted white colonial house that was the scariest place he ever endured. Shadow silhouettes changed nightly. Well, that's pretty cool. That's pretty interesting. Neil, I got to get you on the show, buddy. I really do. And Oakland, where I was a teen, Agar was extremely haunted. Okay. I definitely got to get you on, Neil. But ladies and gentlemen, that was the list of 20 of the places. Thank you, Cindy. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming in. I opened my eyes a little bit. There's some places we got to go. But, wherever you think or wherever you feel like you want to go and investigate, it could be Gettysburg, it could be Antietam, it could be Bushy Run Battlefield here in Westmoreland County. Or you can find a place down in Ohio, like Prospect Place, where it was a mansion that was part of the Underground Railroad. Um, Look for places that are haunted that helped that was part of the Underground Railroad, because they're, very, very haunted. But like I said, there's places, like every house, every building has a ghost. Okay. But really do your research on the place where you want to go, um, and try to connect with people, before you go, like another paranormal group or somebody who knows a little bit more about the city. And don't be afraid to go on the ghost tours either down there. Um, and hopefully that you will have a great investigation, and hope you get some more history on the place that you are going to. And then you can share it with us on the show here, which would be great. This Tuesday night coming up, my guest will be the girl from the stars. Okay. And she's really um, in communication with the aliens, and central beings. And I'm really looking forward to our show. I've seen her stuff on Facebook, and she has some pretty interesting videos, and I'd just like to hear her story, and go from there. And please come in 8:10 Tuesday night, 8:10 to 9:10, and come in, and give her, give her some support. You know what I mean? Because I know my people out there give my other guests support. I want to thank everybody for coming in tonight. Children, if you can, please go to your parents and give them a hug and tell them that you love them. And parents, please go to your children, give them a hug, and tell them that you love them. And if you don't have no parents, and if you have no children, find somebody, give them a hug, and tell them that you love them. Because those 3 words, I love you, go a long way. And on that note, everybody, good night, and we'll see you Tuesday night.